Do you know where light pollution comes from?
Light.
Do you know how birds may be affected by light pollution?
It's pollution. Pollution bad. Animals affected by pollution not good.
How do you think light pollution affects birds?
How do I think light pollution affects birds? Maybe the same as it does turtles?
Do you know what light pollution is?
What?
As you can see, we have a lot to learn about light pollution's effects on birds. But don't worry, this short video will teach you everything you need to know. So where does light pollution actually come from? Light pollution can come from the street lights, such as the ones you see on the expressway at night, or the night lights that brighten up your neighborhood. Light pollution also comes from car headlights, infrastructure, and even houses. Considering cities has the majority of these light sources, urban areas are the prime sources of light pollution. 50% of the current population is located in an urban area, and this number is expected to increase even more. With more of the population moving into urban areas, the borders defining the urban area will expand. This means that not only will more people be turning on lights, but light pollution will affect more and more ecosystems due to the ever-expanding border of the urban area. So why does this matter? Why should we care how many lights we turn on at 2 a.m.? We should care because humans aren't the only ones that light pollution affects. In many ways, light pollution has been shown to affect wildlife. However, this short video will focus on how light pollution is affecting birds specifically. The most likely effect light pollution has on birds has to do with their circadian rhythms. Take a moment to think about how hard it may be for you to fall asleep when all of your bedroom lights are on. Pretty hard, right? Birds have this same difficulty, and as a result, research has shown that birds are staying up later and later. Birds, just as humans, secrete the hormone melatonin. The release of melatonin is triggered by darkness, or an absence of light. Melatonin plays a role in regulating the circadian rhythm, causing sleepiness. Thus, with increased light pollution, birds are secreting melatonin later and later into the night, causing them to fall asleep later. It has been suggested that birds are even taking short naps, per se, throughout the day to compensate for the lack of sleep they are getting at night. However, research focusing on this exact idea is limited. Even so, if taken into consideration, resting more during the day could mean less time for nesting, eating, and collecting food for offspring. To add on to the idea that birds are going to sleep later and later due to light pollution, birds are also waking up earlier and earlier. Birds respond to artificial light thinking the sun is rising. As a result, they start singing their morning songs earlier and earlier. As in the previous example, melatonin secretion is not lasting as long, causing birds to wake up earlier. But why does it matter that birds are singing earlier in the morning? Well, male birds often sing songs in order to attract female mates. A female bird's ability to listen to morning songs and choose their mate allows them to select for the highest quality mate, so to speak. However, if the timing of song singing is off, then birds may sing earlier than others, possibly resulting in dysfunctional mating patterns. So next time you get up to go to work before dawn, listen to see if you can hear birds singing their songs. Birds who migrate over North America during the night become confused by brightly lit buildings, communication towers, and similar structures. The birds are attracted to light, so they begin to fly towards these artificial light sources, throwing them off their path. If birds migrate to the wrong area, then they risk death because that area may not have the right food, shelter, or climate that would allow them to survive. Another thing to consider is the fact that birds use the light from the moon and the stars as navigation tools. However, like most of us can testify to, you can't see the moon or stars well in brightly lit cities. This adds another way in which birds can end up in the wrong places. Last, but certainly not least, light pollution has been shown to result in earlier egg laying. If birds begin to lay their eggs earlier and earlier, then the food sources they rely on to feed their young may not be available. For example, caterpillars and insects are not readily available before spring, so if birds begin to lay their eggs before springtime, then they won't be able to feed their offspring. If offspring don't survive, then entire bird species risk extinction. Considering the negative behavioral and physiological effects that light pollution has on birds, don't you think that it's time for humans to consider how we can modify our light usage? One possible solution to mitigate the negative effects explained previously is to use green light instead of bright white light. While green light still brightens the dark night, it has a darker color than white light. This darker color may interfere less with the circadian rhythms of birds, but also humans. Another solution to consider is shielding outdoor lights so the light does not directly shoot up into the sky. The last and most obvious solution is to turn off lights in your home at night when not needed, or turn off street lights at certain hours of the night when human activity is at its lowest. Let's review some key concepts. Light pollution is causing birds to go to sleep later and later, but also causing birds to get up earlier and earlier to sing their morning songs. To limit the light they are exposed to, birds build their nests in dark areas. However, migrating birds have no way of telling the difference between artificial light and light from the moon and the stars. This confusion may result in a change of migratory patterns. One last thing to remember is the idea that birds are laying their eggs earlier and earlier, potentially endangering their offspring. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope you can take the knowledge you learned from this video to help mitigate the negative effects of light pollution. But before class is dismissed for the day, let's see what you learned. So after watching the short video, can you tell me one interesting thing you learned?
I thought it was interesting that artificial light disrupts natural daily cycles of birds, which causes them to sing their songs earlier than normally, which has a number of negative consequences, including mating.
What did you learn from the short video?
I guess I learned that birds like to build their nests in weird places to escape light.